Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a rapidly evolving and, frankly, deeply serious situation unfolding right now in West Asia. The geopolitical landscape is literally shifting beneath our feet, and the standoff between the United States and Iran is entering completely uncharted territory. We're talking about moving way past the era of conventional threats and stepping straight into an age defined by blinding speed and absolutely devastating reach. So it brings us to this absolutely critical question. Are we looking at the staging ground for the next great war in West Asia? Because right now, the region is effectively a powder keg. And the spark that threatens to ignite the whole thing, it isn't just heated political rhetoric. No, it's the introduction of next-generation, hypersonic weaponry into an already super volatile mix. The entire calculus of military power in the Middle East is fundamentally changing, and we're going to break down exactly how and why.
All right, let's dive into this with Section 1, America's Dark Eagle. To really understand this current escalation, we've got to look at the latest strategic moves from the U.S. military. Recent reports are telling us that the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, has formally requested approval to deploy long-range hypersonic missiles, specifically a system known as the Dark Eagle. Now, you have to understand, actually deploying this specific missile would be a massive first. It's meant to be this overwhelming deterrent, a huge show of force. But in the incredibly complex theater of West Asia, it's very easy to see how Iran could interpret this unprecedented move as a direct, immediate provocation.
Which brings us to part 2. Just how lethal is the Dark Eagle? So why does just mentioning this missile change the geopolitical temperature so drastically? Well, what's truly staggering here is this number right here, 6,000 kilometers per hour. That is the reported top speed of the Dark Eagle. Let that sink in for a second. At that velocity, the reaction time for any adversary drops to practically zero. It becomes an absolute nightmare for modern air defense systems. I mean, they simply weren't designed to track, let alone intercept, objects moving at these insane hypersonic speeds.
And the terrifying traits don't stop at speed. We're looking at a range between 2,775 and 3,500 kilometers. It's armed with a conventional warhead, meaning it's built for immediate tactical destruction, not just sitting in a silo as a nuclear deterrent. To put that into perspective, it could theoretically strike targets in Russia or China in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes! But actually, its most dangerous feature might be its maneuverability. It can change direction mid-flight. That makes it nearly impossible for traditional radar arrays to predict its path and track it. It literally upends the traditional rules of modern warfare.
To truly grasp the scale of this standoff, let's look at Section 3, the global weapons market. We need to pivot for a second, away from the battlefield and toward the boardroom, because we're seeing a stark, undeniable contrast playing out in real time. On one hand, we hear all these claims about diplomatic talks and negotiations. But on the other hand, we're seeing live, aggressive shows of military force and actual missile deployments. As our sources point out, there's a glaring contradiction here. You just can't expect to negotiate peace deals on paper while simultaneously putting hypersonic missiles on the ground. The physical preparations for war almost inevitably derail any diplomatic process.
And this quote brilliantly illustrates the economic undercurrent of the whole crisis. Expert analysis from our sources suggests the global military-industrial complex has a huge vested interest in these standoffs. The argument goes that defense industries will actually resist peaceful resolutions from the White House. Why? Because they rely on these conflicts, whether it's Russia and Ukraine or Israel and Iran, to serve as basically live war exhibitions. These battlefields become incredibly lucrative entry points to showcase and sell the next generation of weaponry, like the Dark Eagle, to the rest of the world.
Of course, every action has a reaction. That brings us to Section 4, Iran's counterattack and their demand for ICBMs.
We've got to cross over and look at the Iranian perspective now, and how they're directly responding to what they see as existential threats from the West. According to recent reports, the political pressure inside Iran is hitting a boiling point. Get this, 85 members of the Iranian parliament have written directly to their supreme leader, and they're not asking for better defense systems. No, they are explicitly demanding the immediate development of intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. This represents a demand for a massive, truly unprecedented escalation in their offensive missile capabilities.
The details of this demand are pretty sobering. The explicit objective of these MPs is to secure missiles with enough range to strike the American mainland directly. The motivation fueling all this? It's deeply personal and political. They are seeking revenge for the targeted death of their leadership. The rhetoric coming from these lawmakers is incredibly sharp. They're reportedly demanding the head, not just the eye, in retaliation. This strategy takes the conflict from a localized, regional dispute and shoots the stakes right up to a terrifying intercontinental level. But before we talk about intercontinental futures, let's look at Section 5, Iran's current missile power.
We need to break down the actual current state of their military capabilities to really contextualize the threat they pose right now. If we look at the known inventory of Iran's so-called missile city, their reach is already extensive. The Khorramshahr and Sejel missiles both boast operational ranges of 2,000 kilometers. The Shahed-3, that reaches out to 1,300 kilometers. As you can see, even without intercontinental capabilities, Iran already has the absolute reach to strike targets, bases, and allies across the entirety of West Asia and way beyond.
But listen, it's not just about how far these things can travel, it's about what they carry. Look at these payload capacities. The Khorramshahr carries a massive 1,800 kilogram warhead. The Shahed-3 carries 1,200 kilograms. I mean, these are incredibly destructive payloads. It really demonstrates that even if their ICBM program is still just in development, the current immediate threat level from Iran's existing arsenal is immense. It is fully capable of inflicting catastrophic regional damage right now.
Which leaves us with a final, honestly deeply unsettling thought to consider. Developing advanced missile technology, especially scaling up to intercontinental ballistic capabilities, requires immense technological and financial resources. It's not easy. So with such rapid and sophisticated expansion, we really have to ask, who are the hidden allies? Who is quietly supplying the critical technology and expertise that's allowing Iran to position itself to threaten America directly? Because this isn't just a regional dispute anymore. It's a rapidly escalating global arms race, and the players in the shadows might just be the ones deciding our future. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it brought some vital clarity to this incredibly complex standoff.